Good evening and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. This is a reaction show for Newcastle versus Barcelona, our first Champions League game of the season. Chris, how are you getting on?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to be back in the Champions League. I think overall reflection, I think obviously it's disappointing. I am disappointed. Thought we started really, really well. Yeah, didn't quite. We're going to get into it, aren't we? We're going to get into it, but do you know what? We've got to realise, we've come up against a very, very good Barcelona side, and I think we've just got to try and put it all in perspective, is what I would say. But on a personal level, mate, I'm very good. Thanks, very good. And yeah, looking forward to going into this a little bit more.
Pete, how are you getting on?
All right, lads. Gutted about tonight, to be fair. Gutted, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah.
How are you, Daz?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hyped up to the max, the game. Well, let's talk a bit about it, boys. And actually, before we do, just give a quick shout out to football prizes as well, because the competition is still open. The raffle for tickets. So for as little as 35p, if you use the code loaded10, you could be into the competition, and there's over loads of prizes and instant prizes as well to win, including a Bruno jersey and with the built-in TV and various signed jerseys and cash prizes as well. So go check that out at your leisure. The link is in the description for the show, and go check it out at football prizes. Let's get into it, boys, because the scene was set. Newcastle versus Barcelona, and War Flags definitely did not disappoint, because and everyone there actually, because it was the atmosphere was absolutely electric, and so was the displays. I just want to touch on that first, because some great work went into that. As always, we come to expect it, but it's just amazing what the guys do there, and the atmosphere that's at the game. Another little picture here as well to set the tone. Boys, this is the lineup. Big Nick, Banana Man on the bench. Gordon starts in the number 9 position. Asprilla in attendance. What do you make of the lineup, boys? And I know the talking point is going to be no Nick from the start.
Do you know what? I will give my opinion. I will give my opinion on the lineup when we've been through the show, because to be fair, when I saw the lineup, as disappointed as I was that Nick Voldemarda wasn't starting, I still saw the lineup and thought, I can't say that I wasn't happy with it. I think I was just a little bit disappointed that Voldemarda wasn't starting, if I'm honest. But I wasn't displeased at the lineup when it came out. And to be fair, we had heard rumours, hadn't we, throughout the day that Anthony Gordon was going to start through the middle. So it wasn't a complete shock, because those rumours were circulating a good few hours before the game, maybe even a couple of days before. I know Pete said, didn't he, on the away days with Barça Boy, that a few people in the chat were telling Pete, I think they're starting Gordon through the middle. So yeah, those rumours started quite early on, didn't they? But yeah, other than the absence of Nick Voldemarda, I was quite happy.
I think it was Keith Downey that came from first, and that theory. That's it. Pete, your thoughts on the boys that took the pitch, the lineup from Eddie?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you find me?
Yeah. The lineup wasn't a surprise to me. I got a message earlier on in the day to say that Gordon would be starting up front, and it kind of makes sense. I always felt that this game was earmarked for Johan Wiese to play this game, which just pisses me off even more that Congo international team have just completely ruined this run of games for us, because they are a bunch of absolute amateurs. They have completely mismanaged Johan Wieser, who would have been at this game and would have been absolutely perfect for this game against Barcelona. But their mismanagement has cost us big time. So absolutely shocking stuff from that international team. But yeah, for me, it didn't surprise me. I thought Gordon played really well against Liverpool up until the red card. We wanted to play a high press, high intensity game. It just made sense for me. I would have made one change. I'd have taken Barnes off, and I wouldn't have started Barnes, and I would have played Murphy. I'd have played Murphy on the right, Elanga on the left. That would have been my ideal front three. So that was the only thing for me. Gordon through the middle wasn't really an issue. It was who was going to play either side of him. Because if you're looking for high intensity and high pace, I wouldn't have played Barnes in this game. And that's, we'll get on to performances in a second, but I'd have gone Murphy right, Elanga left, personally. But that was just my opinion.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Gordon on the left, Elanga on the right, and Nick Voltermed in the middle, and then holding up the ball, feeding out in the pace of the boys. But then I was thinking, is he keeping Voltermed because he said he come off with no, he didn't come off. He was feeling he had some cramp in the previous game. So was he keeping him for trying to get him at his best in for Bournemouth? But I don't know. Look, it is what it is. We'll move on. Okay, I'll run fast through the game, boys. As expected, a rapid start from Newcastle, putting them under pressure from with the press. 5 minutes, Gordon had a chance. Elanga with the ball across. Gordon, he didn't connect with it at all. I thought it was a miss at first, but no, he didn't actually connect with it. But he probably should have finished that. 6 minutes, Barnes was in. Rules were but he was offside on that particular occasion. 8 minutes in, Rashford a good run but blasted wide. 17 minutes, Lewandowski nearly got his head on a Barca cross after some good possession by Barca. 23 minutes, Bruno grip ball to set Elanga away, ball across to Barnes. Barnes hits the target, but it was a good save by Garcia. Maybe he should have pulled it more wide. Barnes with the shot, but he was unlucky. It definitely deserved a goal, that one. I think this is a snap of that one. I'll move on. Maybe we can take everything at halftime, boys. 28 minutes, J7 yellow for pulling back Pedri. 29 minutes, a little trip on Gordon as part of a nice move from Newcastle, but nothing was coming there. Schär was all over Lewandowski. The early didn't like the last 15 minutes of that half. The early first half pace, it seemed to kind of dwindle down a bit because it was rapid. Big Dan Burn got a yellow then right before halftime, but halftime took us to 0-0. Thoughts on the first half as a whole, boys? Chris, we'll go to you first.
I was encouraged, mate. I thought we had some really good chances. The biggest disappointment for me was going in at halftime without scoring. We had, I think you briefly mentioned it, we had the air shot from Anthony Gordon when he didn't make a connection with the cross. I do feel like Harvey Barnes should have done better. Anthony Elanga with that fantastic run and great cross. I know Ali McCoist said that he felt like he should have gone across the goal. For me, even if he decided to go near post, there was still a gap. There was a gap next to Juan Garcia where he could have just put it. He hit it straight at him. So that was disappointing from my point of view. Obviously got the shot on target, but I would have expected better because he has a little bit of time. He has a little bit of time. The ball come in, and because it was from the other side of the pitch, there was it was one of those, wasn't it, where you can see it coming and then the ball's travelling, and have a little look. Where's the keeper? You either decide to put it across the face, like McCoy's mentions, or you go near post, but you've got your gap. Your gap's there. Don't hit it at the keeper. Maybe I'm taking away from Juan Garcia, who, as I was talking to you pre-show, that I thought he really impressed. I thought he was excellent. To be fair, the Barcelona goalkeeper, I thought he was really good, particularly with his distribution. But yeah,
he was.
But yeah, disappointed not to go in the lead at half time because we could have. that was how I was feeling at half time. But I was encouraged because, you know, there was, as you mentioned, there was a lot of intensity, there was a lot of purpose. We were going at Barcelona. What I found interesting was, I think it was around 18, 19 minutes. We kept sitting really deep. Like there was one point where Gordon was about 10 yards away from our 18-yard box. And we were just sitting deep. And I think I said to you boys, I feel like we're setting a trap. It was almost a case of contain them. And this is what I was saying to me red and blue mates who were having a ball. And weirdly, they only started messaging me on the 58th minute, which I found quite interesting. And I did remind them of that. I found it interesting that we'd sit deep, and it almost felt like we were trying to set a trap, in order to draw Barca in and get them on the counter. And so the first half, disappointed, as I say, not to score, not to go in with a goal. But I was encouraged, and I was hoping that we would see Nick Voldemar early in the second half. As it turned out, we ended up getting 4 subs, didn't we? I think one of them was forced due to Fabian Schär's head injury, which is standard. We always have a Fabian Schär head injury every game. But anyway, I'm dipping into the second half here, aren't I? I was encouraged by that first half performance, and I was hoping that we were going to kind of do the same second half. But yeah, just a shame that we didn't go 1 up, at least 1 up.
Pete, your analysis of the first half.
Firstly, Andy Ford, you're absolutely waffling. Stop chatting rubbish, right? With regards to that Wiese situation, it's completely different from Nick Voltemade, right? Johan Wiese barely kicked a ball all summer. He'd not played a preseason match. Why he was then played for 90 minutes in one game, 90 plus minutes in one game, and then 74 minutes, and it would have been another full 90 had he not got injured, right? When he's barely kicked a ball, when our previous striker was managed throughout the whole international break and only played 15 minutes because he'd not played football. It was an absolute mismanagement from Congo. So don't throw Nick Woltermaid in there because it's a load of rubbish. Don't use that as an excuse, right? And it was very, very clear that Nick Woltermaid wasn't utilised for Germany. So I'm not having that. So don't start chatting rubbish to me. Not tonight. In terms of the first half, we were a better team. We deserved to go in a goal in front. The theme through this 90 minutes was a clear lack of quality in the final third. And I say quality, delivery and finishing is going to be our Achilles heel this season because unfortunately we have wingers that run a lot, but on the final ball don't produce. And on the biggest stage against the biggest clubs, it was proven true tonight because our endeavour and work rate in that first half should have had us at least a couple of goals in front because we were the better team. We outworked them, we outplayed them, we outfought them. We created good opportunities, but when it comes to the final ball and that critical pass, it just isn't there. Now, the only one I can really put to the side of that is Anthony Elanga because I thought he was absolutely sensational. He was absolutely brilliant. He was the only one that created a couple of decent opportunities. But Gordon completely missed kicks one, which is poor from him. He really needs to forget whether he played up front or on the left wing or not. Like he just needs to be better in those moments. I'm glad he got his goal later on, but again, he just needs to be better in those clutch moments because we score there, we're up. That's a PSG moment right there. If we get that goal and we put that in the back of the net. The Barnes one was unlucky. Johan Garcia, I don't really need to say any more than that because I talked about him really early on in the summer for how good he is. I wasn't surprised to see how good he was because he's a top quality goalkeeper. He made a good save. Could he have cut it back? Maybe. But you're talking about instincts and moments there. He had the right to shoot first time, so I can't be mad at Barnes for doing so. But Anthony Elanga was absolutely sensational that first half. He really, really was. But if we're going to have a player playing at that level, you need someone on the end of it because otherwise that hard work and that endeavour and that quality performance isn't properly utilised. And that proved the case in that first half. So it was a shame to go in 0-0, but we deserved more.
We definitely did deserve more in that first half. Juan Garcia actually plays well for me in Football Manager in the Championship with Southampton, by the way. But anyway, look, I was thinking, okay, it's like you, Chris. I was thinking give me some big Nick energy, and Nick certainly does like a nibble, as you would have seen on the sideline as well, as he was getting prepped to come on at some stage in the game. Into that second half, 47 minutes, J7 header from a corner wide. 49 minutes, Rashford has a shot, but it went straight into the head of Shar. And yeah, concussion, I think, then boys, but we'll get to that in a second. 53 minutes, Tonali shot as it's laid back to him, but straight at the keeper. 57 minutes, Rashford scores with his head. Koundé with the cross, got away from Shar. Then Shar was still on the pitch. I know it's difficult to make a decision at that stage, but he didn't look right then. He was like a bit away from Rashford. Shar in normal circumstances would be on top from there, I think.
Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, it's a fair point. And then obviously Shar went down a few moments after that, didn't he? And then needed to be substituted. Whether or not he can be excused for the goal, it may have played a part. I'm not saying it didn't, and we'll never really know, will we? I did think Ali McCoist went a little bit over the top with the header. We know he gets really enthusiastic at times, doesn't he? But I thought it was a good header. I didn't think it was one of the best headers I've ever seen. It was a good cross, and Rashford did what he needed to do, got it on target, and obviously the goal went in. But yeah, Fabian Schär just switched off just for the moment, didn't he? And give Rashford a yard, and then obviously he had a free header. So yeah, a little bit disappointed with that, because up until that point, I thought we defended really, really well as a unit and as individuals. So yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame, and when the goal went in, it was funny because Lisa and Callum, I was watching it with my wife and my lad, and they were reacting, and I just didn't say a word because I just felt so disappointed. I was disappointed that had happened because we didn't deserve it. Didn't deserve to go 1-0 down at that point. But as Pete mentioned just earlier, when you're playing against the top teams in Europe, things like that can happen. All they need is a yard, all they need is a moment, and if you switch off for a split second, you get punished. And unfortunately, we did. Yeah, so that was my reaction to the goal.
Pete, thoughts on Rashford's first?
For me, I thought it was a great goal. Really, really good finish. A lovely ball in from Koundé on his weaker foot. But yeah, Shaw too far away from Rashford, not close enough. I don't think he anticipates Marcus Rashford to score a goal like that, because he's not known for scoring a goal with his head. But for me, I think that's a great finish. It really is, into the far corner. No chance for the goalkeeper at all. Although I did question his positioning, but because the play was on the right hand side, his left, you understand why he was slightly further over to that side, because that was where the play was in motion. So I did question it initially, but I think it's a great goal. It's a lovely header. And yeah, really disappointing, because in that moment, again, we were up. We were looking like the better team. We were pressing. We were creating problems. But against the best teams, you can't switch off for a second. You've got to be on it all the time. You have to be. And we went into, though, it was almost in emotion, because we played in stages. We played high intensity for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we went back into our sort of really sort of deep lying positions. And I think that's I've seen it before from Eddie Howe. It's very much a tactic to ensure that we're not all intensity all of the time for all of the game, because we just burn out otherwise. So it was in that moment where we were a little bit more defensively that we got caught out, which was a shame. And you could see it after the goal that we just couldn't quite get going again, because I think it took the stuffing out of us, because we didn't expect to concede at that time. But look, I'm not gonna sit here and say it wasn't a great goal. It was a lovely finish from Marcus Rashford, a goal that we didn't expect him to do, but fair play to him.
Fair play to him. he appears later on as well because 4 minutes later we make 4 subs. Shar off, Mike Chow on, probably concussion sub I assume at that stage. Barnes off, Voltermid on, Langa off, Murphy on, J7 off, Willock on. 66 minutes then, Rashford with that screamer. Some finish with Thomas Tuchel in the stands actually, but in off the bar, 2-0 to Barca. Boys, thoughts on that one?
Go on, Pete, you go first, mate.
Rashford, sensational finish. Nothing Nick Pope can do about that. Can Tonali get closer to him? Probably. I think he doesn't expect him to hit a ball like that, but if you know Marcus Rashford, he does have that in his locker. He's done it before. As much as people like get on at him and think that he's not a good player, he can certainly hit a ball, and he can hit a ball with power. And it's a great strike. It really is. His confidence was up once he scored that first goal. But yeah, it was a great strike. One of the top strikes you'll probably see in the Champions League this season. And yeah, again, took the stuffing out of us because we didn't expect it. And yeah, at that point, it was not looking good. But yeah, lovely strike. Fair play to him.
Chris?
Yeah, I wasn't. As you probably told, you could probably tell from earlier, I wasn't as keen on Rashford's header. I thought it was a decent finish, but I have no complaints whatsoever with that second one. I thought the second goal was a superb finish. It was pretty much unstoppable, to be fair, and that's what he is capable of. Yeah, no complaints with the second goal. Just a brilliant piece of work, and created himself a little yard and then struck it so sweetly. So yeah, it was a great finish. Great finish. The only real disappointment for me when that went in, because obviously I'd accepted the fact that it was a great goal. Sometimes, you know, when you can see the goal, you just sit back and go, like, and that was one of those moments. I couldn't really moan at anyone for it. It was just a really, really good finish. But the biggest disappointment for me was the fact that I kind of knew the game was done then as soon as that went in. Because at 1-0, you know, there's still a bit of hope. And I know we still had a good 24, 25 minutes maybe, something like that. But yeah, fair play to Marcus Rashford. It was a very, very good finish, and I'm sure he'll have been delighted scoring that in front of Thomas Tuchel as well.
Right, let's move on. Let's try and take some positives from the rest of the game, because there's some nice turns under pressure from Malik Chow to get himself out of trouble as well. So that was good to see. 74 minutes, Walter made the layoff to Bruno. The shot was saved. 75 minutes, Trips came off with cramp, bottom and on, went to 3 at the back. Passing was kind of off from Newcastle. Bruno and Tonali at times, some of the passes off. I know we're playing Barca, but it wasn't the usual standard. Pedri and De Jong were on point in the Barca midfield. 89 minutes, Gordon scores. Bruno to Murphy across the box. Gordon applies the finish. Here's some pictures on that one here, and of course Gordon collects the ball because we're back in it then. The 7 minutes of added time. Actually, no, stop. Good toss and Gordon's goal.
I thought he missed it at first when he hit it. It must have been a funny camera angle, because I thought he'd scuffed it and it was going to go wide, but then obviously it went in. Did give me a little bit of hope, but yeah, I feel a bit torn actually, because I'm saying he took it well, but given the fact that he scuffed it a bit, and I wasn't actually sure that he'd got it on target. Maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit there, but yeah, it was great for us to score, and obviously it felt like we were getting back in it, and it created a nervy 8 or 9 minutes left. I did also enjoy the fact that Barca were trying to waste time. I mean, you're doing something right, aren't you, when you're forcing Barcelona to try and waste a bit of time, but yeah, no, it was probably good for Gordon's confidence as well, because for me, I thought he had quite a poor game, if I'm honest. His touch was off. I thought his decision making was a bit off as well. But the fact that he got his goal, will give him that confidence. And obviously, he's going to miss this weekend, unfortunately, against Bournemouth because he's serving the third match of his ban. But yeah, it was good that it gave the fans something to cheer about anyway. But yeah, nervy last 8 or 9 minutes. But yeah, too little, too late. Unfortunately, I just wish that had come in the first half.
Gordon's goal, Pete. Thoughts on that
one? All thanks to Jacob Murphy. That goal is all about Jacob Murphy for me. I thought he was brilliant in that moment. Lovely ball. Sometimes Jacob Murphy can get those balls wrong, but that delivery was on point. Really good delivery into an area where Garcia couldn't get out because Garcia was really good with his distribution, really good with commanding his area and coming out. But he just put it into an area where he just couldn't quite get there. And I think the fact that he scuffed the ball actually allowed him to score the goal, because I think if he'd have hit it clean, I think it probably would have been saved. But for me, at that point, I didn't care. We needed Anthony Gordon to score tonight because he has to put the ball in the back of the net more often for Newcastle United this season. He didn't do much in the game, whether he was a forward or a left, even at left wing, he didn't really do much. He didn't do any more than Barnes, probably a little bit less actually in that position when he moved into there. But he got the goal, and we need him to score goals, and we need him to be either getting goals or assists in order to kick us on this season. He has to have a good season, Anthony Gordon. We need him to have a good season. And I've got to be honest, he'll be looking over at Barcelona's left wing and going, am I going to the World Cup? Because if Rashford's scoring goals like that and Grealish is playing the way he is at Everton, he is third choice right now. So he has to play well. So he needed that goal for club as well as country. He had to score that goal tonight. But his performances have to be better. And obviously we're not going to see that now until Arsenal, maybe Bradford, but I wouldn't expect him to play against Bradford. So I would assume Arsenal. So that's probably the next time we need to see him. In anger, effectively. We need to see better performances from him. But I'm glad he scored. It gave us a little bit of life in the game, him putting the ball in the net. But yeah, we have to see more from him because it wasn't enough tonight. It wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I had wrote down earlier that yeah, he was not at his best. Now, great that he got the goal. I just don't like him up front. He looked like he was saving himself at times as well. I thought that was maybe the plan that he play up front. He's saving himself, and then when he goes onto the left wing and Baltimore comes on, then he kick into gear. But yeah, look, he got his goal. Fair play. We won't see him though. The weekend against Bournemouth. But okay, 7 minutes at a time. Could we see a grand slam finish? Answer no. 94 minutes, Pope save from Dani Olmo. Barça took a few yellow cards as well, just to try and kill off the game. Tonali shot then right at the death through the crowd, but no joy. Full time, 2-1, lost to Barça. But all not last, lads. And it's not an embarrassment or anything like that because we could have got something from that game. But thoughts on the overall second half, I suppose, or the overall game?
Yeah, just disappointed really more than anything. And I think the reason I'm disappointed is because I felt like there was an opportunity there for us. As I say, really good start to the first half. Petered out a little bit, but I still went into that second half confident. Two things I wanted to touch on, and I thought, and it's quite unusual for Newcastle because sometimes we see substitutions made, don't we? And they can be ineffective, or maybe the team looks a little bit worse. That was certainly something that we spoke about a lot last season. But what I took encouragement from was the 4 substitutions that came on, because I think each one of them had their own impact. I'll start with Nick Voltemade there, because I suppose there was an element of frustration on my part, because towards the end of the game, I could almost see what he's going to bring to this team. You know, we saw a lot of him coming deep, little flicks, little tricks, and it was bringing Bruno into the game, it was bringing Willock into the game. The wingers were coming in, more centrally, and you could kind of see how Nick Voltemade is going to be such a key part for us going forward. It's just a shame. It's just a shame that for me that we didn't start him, but I do understand why we didn't start him, because at the same time, he's not 100% match fit. We know that. That's obviously why he came off early against Wolves. So that was a bit frustrating, but I did take positives from that, because I liked what he did when he did come on. At first, there wasn't much going on, but then towards the end of the game, he really started to get into it, which I thought was good. To touch on Malik Chow, I thought he looked really good on the ball, really, really good, so composed. I think we'll end up with a lot of heart and mouth moments though, because he loves doing a little pirouette, doesn't he? And then it fooled the Barcelona players twice, but you just wonder one day he's going to do that, and they're going to know that's what he's going to do. But all the same, I thought it was a really, really good cameo from Malik Chow. Then there's Joe Willock. I think that's the best I've seen Joe Willock play in a short period of time for a long, long time. I thought he came on, he brought lots of energy, not big Nick energy, but he brought lots of energy. And albeit at the end, and you mentioned that at the very start, he should have released the ball a bit quicker when he was dancing on the edge of the box. I had Alan St. Maximin vibes at that point, when he just danced towards the middle of the box and you're wondering what he's doing. But I thought it was, quite a positive cameo from Joe Willock. And then finally, Jacob Murphy come on, and Jacob Murphy doing what he does best, contributing goals. Fantastic assist. Pete mentioned it earlier for Anthony Gordon. Absolutely fantastic assist. I did feel a bit sorry actually for Anthony Elanga, because I thought he played really well up to that point. But when Jacob Murphy came on and obviously got that really important assist, it was good. So yeah, all four subs having a real big impact, which was nice to see, because sometimes, as I say, we either look worse off the back of substitutions, or they can be a little bit ineffective. But I thought each one of them played really well. Oh, and of course I forgot Sven Botman, didn't I? Sven Botman, just being Sven Botman, absolute rock at the back. It was nice, boys, and I don't know whether you boys felt the same. Obviously, we went to a three at the back, didn't we? And we saw Dan Burn push to the left side of the centre backs. But a lot of the time, we saw Sven Botman next to Malik Chow, and the more I saw them, the more they were getting the ball. I was thinking, this looks good. This looks really good. And you were kind of getting a glimpse into the future, weren't you? Both very, very good on the ball, calm, composed, big, strong, athletic. So they were the positives I took. But yeah, disappointed, because I went into this game with high hopes. Pete, I know you said 2-1 on the away days, and when I was watching it, I did feel the same. And funnily enough, just before the game started, I was thinking, you know what, I'm going to say 3-1. I'm going to say 3-1. And it could, and the frustrating thing from my point of view is it could have been 3-1 on a different night. I think, yeah. I'm taking positives from it, and I know a few people in the chat have, said that they felt like, I think it was Frieden said in the chat it was the worst performance of the season. For me, I thought we played really well in parts. I really, really do. But I suppose we've all got different opinions, haven't we? And we've got to remember as well, we were coming up against a very, very good Barca side. Yes, there was no Lamine Yamal, but a very, very good Barca side who are seasoned in the Champions League. And to get them to come to St James's Park, put on a performance and give them a game for 97, 98 minutes, I think it's not bad going. And every time we play in the Champions League, we're not going to come up against the same opposition as Barcelona. So for me, still keeping positive.
Pete, your overall summary of the game?
That wasn't the worst performance of the season. We're coming up against one of the best teams in the world. Like, that is not the worst performance of the season. Like, if we're talking about worst performance of the season, we're talking about Leeds. And even then, we weren't bad. We just couldn't score or create any attacking moments. So,
striker.
Yeah, I was proud of the boys. They gave everything. Regardless of us talking about our deficiencies and things that we don't have or didn't have during the game, the boys gave everything, as they always do. They left everything on the pitch. They gave every ounce of energy. They ran themselves into the ground. they work so well. Like we have to look at that and just observe that. And we're fighting against one of the best teams in the world, and actually for large parts of that game we didn't look out of place. They scored in moments, they used moments to beat us. And let's be honest, you look at the quality of players they've got in their squad and you'd expect them to create those moments. They are one of the best in Europe. Like that's the reality of it. Players for me, I thought Sandro Tonali was superb today. He literally ran that midfield. Yes, he got caught out for Rashford's goal, but he covered every blade of grass. He really does look like a top level Champions League player. I thought Dan Burn was sensational again. I thought he was excellent again. Really, really good performance. Really managed his game well. What I will say is Malik Chow has to start on Sunday. He has to start on Sunday. I thought he was brilliant.
I think he will.
I think we need him starting games for Newcastle United.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be very, very difficult for players like him to break into the team. So when he comes on and plays well, we need to give him an opportunity to shine. And with Shaw's situation, I don't think it is concussion, but I think they took precautions with taking him off. But I think there's partly the fact that we've got strength in depth. We can afford to take him off now and go, you know what, let's not risk it. I think if we didn't have a Malik Chow, I think he probably would have played on. He probably wouldn't have played that because he obviously got hit by the ball again for the second time. But we've got Malik Chow there, and I thought he was brilliant when he come on. I thought he was great, really comfortable on the board. He won some big headers as well, made some good interceptions. Like, I just thought he looked the part, and we need to, if we're signing a player for significant money, we need to give him an opportunity to show his worth. And I think Sunday's probably that opportunity if we're looking at rotation. He starts for me where I do think there's an element of him and Burn that can work. Burn with the way he plays, and Malik Chow with that pace and in behind recovery. He's quick off the mark. He's good in recovery as well. I think that could potentially work on Sunday, so I wouldn't be against him starting. I thought Tino Livramento was really poor tonight. Tino Livramento absolutely needs to work on his first touch, because his first touch is really poor, and it puts him in really difficult positions time and time again. I've noticed it in a couple of games now, but in particular tonight, he got really caught out a few times because his first touch is poor. Whether it's winning the ball, so he wins the ball in dangerous positions. So when they're trying to break the lines, he wins the ball because he reads the game so well. But then his first touch out or his second touch out is so poor, it gives them an opportunity of winning the ball back. And 9 times out of 10, they do. He needs to work on his first touch, because everything about his game other than that is great. He has got the potential of being a top level player, but his first touch really exposed him tonight, as did Gordon. His first touch really exposed him tonight as well. And so did Bruno Guimaraes. Bruno Guimaraes, I've seen him play absolutely superb against Liverpool. But in other games, he needs to stop taking too many touches on the board. He is very clearly being targeted by opposition teams now, that when he has the ball, that they're pressing him in numbers, and he wants to take 2-3 touches on the board, and he hasn't got the time to do it. And he keeps getting caught out in difficult positions when we don't need to lose the ball. He has to be better. He has to be better. So that's an area that he needs to improve on. What I will say, Anthony Elanga has definitely put himself in the shop window for starting. Nick Voltemade needs to start. I can see why they rested him and brought him off the bench, but I actually think playing against Bournemouth on Sunday on their type of pitch is actually perfect for him. I think he could make the difference in those little creative pockets in the Bournemouth box, could really create problems. So I really want him to start. I'm just looking around the team. Pope didn't really put a foot wrong. I thought he was okay again. Trippier was okay, much better than against Wolves. Just looking around the pitch, but ultimately I'm proud of the boys because they gave everything. The one thing I need to be clear on is tonight does not decide what Newcastle United do in the Champions League. This was never going to decide anything. It would have been great to get a point or even 3 in this game to really give us that kick start to the Champions League campaign, but it doesn't decide anything. We've got 6 games now between now and the 7th game against PSG on the 28th of January that I think all 6 of those games before the PSG game are winnable, that we can actually win pretty much all of those games if we approach the games right. So for me, we gave it a go. We went toe-to-toe with Barcelona. We didn't quite have enough on this day, but it's not the end of the world, and it shouldn't be. We shouldn't be downbeat. We should take the positives on the players that played well. We should take the negatives on the chin, and certain players need to step it up in certain areas, and we move on. And the all-important game now is Bournemouth away. Let's go and finally beat Bournemouth on their patch. We haven't done it under Eddie Howe. Let's go win that game. Let's go win that game, grab 3 points, and kick ourselves on for the season again. I'm not going to get downhearted about it. Obviously, we're gutted tonight that we didn't win, but there are bigger things to play here for Newcastle United between now and January the 28th. So it is what it is. Daz, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are going to go through coming on a few things you said there, people. First of all, just pointing out that it isn't the end of the our hopes in the Champions League, because we've got 8 games, 7 to go. Well, we are down in the big table out in 26th position, but that changes in an instant. If we have to go all the way down to Atalanta, who are down in 36th spot. So don't worry about that just yet. Going back to your comments on Bournemouth, I'd pick Pope in goal. I'd actually start Lewis Hall. I think it's time we bring in Lewis Hall and play him left back, bring Tino over to the right, play Malik Chow and Byrne, keep the midfield the same way it is, have Alanga on the left, have Murphy on the right, and have Big Nick Faltermeid in there to do his thing, and what he's saved for doing. We obviously don't have Gordon, so that's what I do. And yeah, as you said, I think we need to try something different against Bournemouth, because we can never beat Bournemouth. They are our bogey team, so we can forget about this if we can get 3 points away at Bournemouth the weekend, which is a big ask. But let's see. Look, we'll move on from the defeat tonight. Plenty more Champions League nights to come. Shall we go to some questions, boys?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Shane Mawson, always great to see Shane in the chat. Thank you very much, Shane. A member for 44 months. Get to bed. Well, no, Shane doesn't need to get to bed, does he? It's Shane. Must be early.
James in Australia.
Yeah.
Get back to bed.
Get back to bed, Shane. Yeah, exactly. Outclassed tonight. Bring on the weekend. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. To be fair, I wouldn't say we're outclassed, but yeah, in terms of bring on the weekend, absolutely, Shane, because we need to put this one behind us, and we've got to appreciate, as we said earlier, that we've come up against very, very, very good opposition, and not every team in the Champions League that we face, certainly not for the next 7 games, are going to be of the same quality as Barcelona. So, yeah, let's see. I'm going to flash this one up actually, because these are the post-match comments from Eddie. So Eddie Howe on the defeat to Barcelona. Disappointing. We were really in the game. I never felt we were out of it. I'm disappointed we didn't score the first goal. That was crucial. We had the chances to do it. It was a wholehearted, gutsy display, but maybe lacking the quality to get us the win. And yeah, I can't really disagree with that, I'll be honest. Had we got that first goal, had we gone 1-0 up in the first half, it would have looked like a very, very different game. I think that is fair to say. A few more shout outs, a few new members. Thank you very much to everyone becoming a member. But first, I'm going to go to Super Chat, and that's from Ken Bell. Thank you very much, Ken. And Ken says, Gordon not a striker. Barnes should have put us ahead. Big man should have started. So 3 points there. So Ken Bell is saying that Gordon is not a striker. Barnes should have put us ahead with that chance. And he's saying Big Nick Voldemar should have should have started. What are your boys' thoughts on those 3 comments?
I agree wholeheartedly with what Kenneth said there on all 3 points because, yeah, I said it already. Gordon is not a striker. I rather him on the left. I know he can cut in, and he has dreams of moving into the centre, but I just think his role is a striker. He's not. Sorry, his role is a left winger. He's not a striker for me. Barnes yeah, it was a lovely move. It was the ball from Bruno before that, because it was before Langa had even taken off. He anticipated that Langa was going to run, and that's what I like to see actually as well going forward. Yeah, it was a great move. Barnes just unlucky with the finish, and yeah, I would have loved if Nick Watermaker had started, but I can see the logic behind it, but I really wanted Nick Watermaker to start.
Mm. Pete, are you in agreement with all 3 points from Campbell? Oh, sorry, mate, you're on mute.
Yeah, Gordon's not a striker. He is a player that can play the position well, but he's not a natural goal scorer. So you have to be a natural goal scorer if you're going to play as a striker, and he's not that very clearly. He's not. So yeah, that it doesn't work. But I can see why Eddie Howe does it in part of a tactical setup. I can see why he does it, but Johan Wieser will be that guy. It's only because he's injured that Gordon's having to play that position. As I say, if Johan Wieser plays tonight, he probably scores a couple of those chances, and we're talking about a completely different situation right now. Harvey Barnes should have scored, maybe. I thought it was a good save. I thought he picked up some good positions. You know, Harvey Barnes is getting a lot of stick on social media tonight. People saying he's crap and he's rubbish and this, that, and the other. I thought he picked up some good positions tonight. I thought he picked up some good positions in attacking areas. He made some good runs. He constantly gets compared to Gordon because Gordon does a lot of additional running in his game. Harvey Barnes isn't that type of player. He hasn't been. If people are expecting that from him, you're expecting things that he's just not going to give you. He hasn't been like that even at his time in Leicester. He's not going to change now at 27, 28 years old. But for me tonight, it was very clear that Harvey Barnes probably doesn't fit in Eddie Howe's evolution of his setup and how he wants Newcastle United to play. So for me, I think probably Harvey Barnes does leave in January or at the latest this summer. I think they'll move him on. They'll try and cash in. If he can score a couple of goals between now and January, I think that will only help his price. I think, you know, he doesn't fit the setup. It's probably time to move him on, get some money from him, and get a player that can actually play in this setup. But the key thing is that if we're going to get someone in moving forward, we need to get in a natural goal scorer. Because Barnes can finish. He is a good finisher. He might not score tonight, but he is a good finisher, and we need to add goals to our winging positions because we just don't have it at the moment.
Maybe the frustration with Barnes is, though, that we're kind of used to him scoring 1 in every 3 games. That when he does start, or I remember last year he was coming off the bench and scoring, and it just maybe people are picking on him then because he hasn't scored yet, and you know that's unfair as well. But and he's been thrown in because Gordon is suspended in the league.
And Razmatun, I think is absolutely right, and this is something that people forget sometimes, is that people laud some of our players because they're runners. So Razmatun says the likes of Gordon and Langa, they're runners. They are absolutely runners, but they're not technically great players. And sometimes, and I've said this 2 or 3 years ago on this channel, what do we want as Newcastle United fans? Do we want all-action, high-press runners who maybe aren't good finishers? Or do we want players that maybe don't do as much running but are killers in and behind when needed? We have to decide what we want, because we can't, you know, if you want both, you're paying 60, 70, 80 million for that type of player. That's just the reality. And Newcastle United can't keep doing that all the time. So sometimes you're going to get a player that is a runner, like Anthony Elanga is absolutely a runner. We saw that tonight in and behind the space. He is dynamite, and he created lots and lots of issues. But even himself in front of goal isn't the most formidable. And so we lack that massively. So the one player that can actually be clinical in front of goal, Harvey Barnes, we probably will look to sell. But what we get in after that has to be crucial. We have to get in a goal scorer. We have to get in someone that could add to what the strikers offer in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. Because at this moment in time, we are still back to square one in relying on Nick Voltemeda and Johan Wieser to score all of our goals this season. That is not realistic for our aspirations of what we want to achieve this season. We want to get Champions League football. We need goals from our strikers, but we need goals from our wingers. We need goals from our midfielders. And at this point in time, we don't look like we're going to get that, and that's a big issue for me. It is, and it was laid to bear tonight. In terms of the big man, Nick Voltemeda, no, I understood why he was on the bench. I understood that, and Eddie Howe would have had that conversation with him. When you're coming off after 55 minutes because of cramp in your first Premier League game, it would be absolute, needs must, last resort if you're throwing him out there again for a Barcelona game on a Thursday night. We've got to look after him. We don't have Johan Wieser until after the international break. We can't afford to lose Nick Voltemeda for any reason whatsoever. We've got to manage him, and so I do believe he'll start on Sunday. But we had to look after him, and it's obviously meant he missed out on a big game tonight in terms of starting. But he'll have other big games in the Champions League where he'll start games and he'll play football for Newcastle United. It's the long term for him, but we need to look after him at this point, and we need to make sure we're easing him in to football at this intense level. That's just a reality.
Yeah. I tell you what, just to touch, you were talking, Pete, about bringing in a striker who's got the speed, got the pace, got the intensity, and the goal scorer. I know he didn't score tonight, but God, I forgot how good Rafinha was. Little touches, creating him a little yard for yourself with that left foot on the right wing. He was something else at times. I forgot. I know he was good at Leeds, and I've seen little bits of him in La Liga, but at times he really stood out for me tonight, Rafinha. I thought he was really, really good. But yeah, if only we could get someone like Rafinha. Couple more shout outs here in terms of memberships. Tino, thank you very much for becoming a Loaded Ultra, for becoming a member. Thank you very much, Tino. And we also, and we also have Trinell Ball. Thank you very much, Trinell.
Cheers,
brilliant.
Cheers,
brilliant. The Clon Lads, who's been a member for 23 months. Thank you, Clon Lads. He says, Alanga, excellent. Chiao is a tank. And Botman's back. I like those three. Do we agree with those three statements tonight, boys?
But Botman never left.
No.
Botman never left. All Botman had to do is just stay fit and prove his fitness and get back up to speed. And look, him not starting at the beginning of the season could well work wonders for him at the back end of the season, because what we're doing, we're easing him into this season, which is exactly what we needed. We had to almost throw him in when he came back from his cruciate, and he picked up a niggly injury and was out for 6-7 weeks off the back of that. He's now had a pre-season. He's now had time to properly get back up to speed with regular training. Sven Botman comes in. He came in against Spurs after 10 months out and looked like he'd never been away. Sven Botman is an elite player. People forget this. People look at his injuries and go, "Oh, he's injury prone. He's no good. Get rid of him." No. Sven Botman needs to have a new contract by early December. He needs to be given a new contract. You can't get rid of players like that, because he will regain his fitness. And what we don't want is him regaining his fitness at another team where he becomes that elite player again, playing regular football somewhere else. We need players like Sven Botman. Malik Chow, I've already said he needs to start Sunday, and Alanga was superb. So yeah, I agree with those other 2 points, Clon Lad.
Daz, you in agreement?
Yeah, Botman's contract, I'd give him a contract maybe at the end of the season, but there's other players ahead of him like Tonali. I want to see extended his contract.
Tino, maybe?
Yeah, Livramento. He definitely deserves one as well. Definitely from where he was when he started. and he's just excelled, and now he's going to the World Cup. He's got his place secured at the World Cup for England, and probably starting. Lange is excellent. I want to see more from him. I want to see in the Premier League more so than anything else. But obviously Murphy's putting him under pressure as well, which is a good thing for us as well. We've competition for places. So I think we're going to see Malik Child this weekend for sure.
Yeah, this is an interesting one from Les Dawson, and Les says, "Sorry lads, you're all blind. Gordon is out of his depth. He's shit on the ball, and his first touch is disgraceful." I think that's a touch harsh, to be honest, Les. I think Anthony Gordon had a poor game overall tonight. I know he got his goal, but I did expect more, and maybe because he's been in and out of the team due to suspension, which is obviously his own fault, which we know. I do think there is a player in there with Anthony Gordon. I just think he needs to run the games. I think he needs to stay fit. I think he needs to get on the left wing and try and regain that form that we saw the season before last. Because, we know how good Anthony Gordon can be. And Pete touched on it earlier. It's about adding goals to his game as well. If we can get Anthony Gordon in double figures for both goals and assists, we're getting a good return. And in what is a World Cup year as well. So Anthony Gordon's got every there's every encouragement for Anthony Gordon to do so as well, because his place on the left wing is not guaranteed for England, that's for sure. But yeah, lots of effort, lots of endeavour from Anthony Gordon tonight, but yeah, it just wasn't quite happening for him. A couple of misplaced touches, didn't control the ball very well. There was a couple of times where I just thought, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" It was almost like he was trying too hard, maybe. I always feel like he feels elevated, like he feels the responsibility on his shoulders because he's playing through the middle. We saw that against Liverpool, played really, really well up until that red card. But yeah, get him on the left wing and get him doing what he does best. But I wouldn't write him off, and I wouldn't say that he's out of his depth, not for me anyway. But boys, what do you think on that, Daz? What do you agree with Les, or do you think there's more to come?
I'm going to take Les's comment and answer it in two different ways. And I'll agree with Les if you're viewing Gordon as a striker, because I think he's off his head if he thinks he's a striker. But I think Les is off his head, or because he's an excellent left winger, and he's been absolutely brilliant for us on left wing. Maybe not last season, but definitely the season before, and even in pre-season, leading into the start of the season, he needs to be playing left wing. I don't like him playing as a striker. Simple as that. So that's where I am with that comment, Les.
What about you, Pete?
There's elements of what Les has said that are a little bit harsh, but there's elements that I agree with. I kind of disagree with Daz's points. I don't think he's an excellent winger. I think he had an excellent season for Newcastle United 2 years ago. If you're an excellent winger, you back it up with multiple seasons. And this is why I'm so desperate to see him have another good season again. Until he puts another top season in the books, I can't see him as an excellent winger. He had an excellent season, and we've had so many players along the Premier League years that have had excellent seasons and then not backed it up. He needs to do more. Hopefully, and this is what I said earlier in the show, hopefully the goal tonight gives him the kickstart that he needs. But he cannot get sent off again by making stupid decisions. He has to be smarter on the pitch, and he has to be more prolific in terms of his assists and his goals. He has to. If he wants to be that elite winger, and if he wants to go to the World Cup, he has to produce more in the final third. For me, people love him because he runs around the pitch and he's got great intensity. But if you want to be an elite winger, it's not enough. If you want to be 10th to 8th in the Premier League, you get away with it. But if you want to be at the top end of the pitch, you've got to produce. And he hasn't. He didn't last season, and he hasn't really so far this season up until tonight. But I need more from him. I said it to you boys right at the beginning of the summer. I need Anthony Gordon to have a good season this season. I need him to play at the level that we saw 2 years ago. We are not seeing that right now. But that hopefully is the kickstart to see him there. But we won't now see it until Arsenal. So almost in my mind, Gordon's at the back of my mind. I'm looking at Sunday now. I'm looking at Alanga. I'm looking at Murphy. I'm looking at Barnes. You know, can you guys perform on Sunday? Can you do the business? Because that's my priority. But would I say he's out of his depth? Not necessarily. But there are elements that he needs to improve on. Shit on the ball. At times he can be disappointing, but at times he can play some good stuff. It's very much a mixed match of things in the game. Let's wait and see. Well, I'm reserving judgment. I'm reserving judgment. Someone said, I think it was Razmatun said, he'll be off to Liverpool in the summer. If he's off to Liverpool in the summer, that's absolutely fine. But the only way he's off to Liverpool in the summer is if he puts double figures in goals and assists on the board, which I'm fine with, by the way. If he puts double figures on the board and then goes to Liverpool for 80, 85 million in the summer, fine, no problem. But put that numbers on the board first. Do that business for Newcastle United first, because that's my priority, and that's what I'm waiting to see. So fingers crossed he does the business. I hope he does. I'm wishing him well. Good goal tonight, and hopefully he can kick on.
Yeah, that's fair. John Stern with a question. I'm going to quickly give my thoughts on it, and then obviously I'll pass to you next, Pete. But John Stern asks a question: why do you think Eddie Howe favours Gordon as centre forwards more than Alanga? So for me, this one's quite easy. I don't think Anthony Gordon is a particularly good finisher, but I do think Anthony Gordon is a better finisher than Anthony Alanga, and I think that is the reason. I think Pete made a really good point before when he said that our wingers aren't natural finishers or natural goal scorers because they're not. And I think Anthony Alanga brings a lot of good qualities to this Newcastle United team. I think he's quick. I think he's direct. I think he can press teams. I think he can cause a lot of issues. But if you were to offer me either Anthony Alanga or Anthony Gordon in a one-on-one situation, I'd pick Anthony Gordon because I think he's a better finisher. I think he's a little bit more composed. But I'll be honest though, John, there's not that much in it, to be fair. There really isn't that much in it. But I just think Gordon is a slightly better finisher. And he probably knows the position a bit better than Alanga as well. That is the reason why I think Eddie Howe starts Anthony Gordon through the middle rather than Anthony Alanga. But what do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I'll probably go along with that in terms of finishing ability. He's probably just a little bit better than Anthony Alanga. Anthony Alanga's all pace, but I think his pace is better served out wide. I think there's a reason why Gordon plays in that front line. Let's be honest, John. It goes back to my original point at the beginning of the show. If Johan Weiss is fit, he starts, and we're not talking about Gordon playing up front. So we have to say that initially. It's down to, and I'll say it again, Congo's inability to manage their own players is why we haven't got Johan Weiss playing today. It's their fault. They're a bunch of amateurs. It's an absolute joke why they've allowed Johan Weiss to play full 90 plus minutes and then start him again and then play him for 74 minutes where he's literally ran himself into the ground and he's barely kicked a ball. So we have to say that fundamentally first. So naturally, Anthony Gordon would be the next guy in if Nick Voltemade is not starting. The reason why he plays him there and not Alanga is because Anthony Gordon's pressing ability is so much better than Anthony Alanga's. Anthony Alanga still has work to do in that situation in terms of his ability to press. He's quick, but he doesn't press as effectively as Anthony Gordon, and you need someone that can. Well, I say you need someone there. Nick Voltemade doesn't press that well, but he wanted to start with high intensity, high press. He wanted to pen Barcelona back, and it worked. It worked. The way we played really pushed them back. We put them under immense pressure, but it's a lack of quality in front of goal. And neither of them are natural goal scorers. That's our problem. And look, Anthony Alanga is 23 years old. We need to maybe develop that into his game. We need to get him into goal scoring positions where he can naturally start putting the ball in the net. What we've seen over the last year is Gordon has had chances. He has had a number of one-on-ones. He's had a number of good chances in front of goal, and he just isn't a natural finisher. So yeah, we're in a rock and a hard place in terms of who plays up front when Nick Voltemade is not fit for the next 6-7 games, which is why, goes back to the original point, Nick Voltemade didn't start tonight because we have to manage him. We have to look after him.
Daz, where are you on this subject from John?
Pretty simple, really. Neither of them are strikers, both wingers. Gordon gets the nod because he did well in that under-21s tournament when he was playing up front for a bit there, and we don't have Nick Speed said Nick Waldman isn't fully fit, and we don't have Wisa, so that we no other option. Anthony Gordon is always going to be our third choice as striker behind Nick Waldman and Wisa, the way things are at the moment, until if we are to bulk out that strike. I suppose Asula is actually, was Asula on the bench? I remember.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was.
But anyway, irrelevant. That's it.
Doesn't that tell you a lot? Doesn't that? Sorry, Chris. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know? Though, is that we're talking about Voltemade not starting and Will Asula not even being considered in that conversation, and I might add, rightly so. Yeah, my thoughts on Will Asula are quite strong now. We need to sell that guy in January. We need to move him on. He is not the future of Newcastle United. He just isn't. We need to move him on big time.
Does make the last minute proposal from Leverkusen a little bit frustrating. It was Leverkusen, wasn't it?
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt. Sorry, Frankfurt.
That's the Champions League.
Can I do the 5-1?
Yeah. Look, get rid of him. Move him on. He's not making it at Newcastle United, and it's very clear that Eddie Howe doesn't fancy him at all. He doesn't fancy him as a player for Newcastle United. It was a Jason Tindall recruitment suggestion that the club went for. He had the raw natural abilities. I'm not seeing it. He is not a striker. He plays his best stuff on the right wing, and even then he's third choice right wing. Get him gone. Get as much money as you can from him. If we can get we nearly got 30 million for him, or close to 30 million at the end of that window. Yeah. If we can get anything over 15 million for Will Asula in January, we've won. So if we can get anywhere close to 30 million, we are laughing. We've pulled off another Lloyd Kelly. If we can get that, get him gone, get the money, and let's reinvest in January and get a proper player in that's actually ready to go. For me, I might die on that hill. Will Asula might turn around and score 6 or 7 goals between now and January. I doubt it, but he could. But I'm confident in saying I'm dying on that hill now. I'm saying he needs to go. Get him out.
Are you given because we briefly spoke on this, Pete? Are you given Will Asula minutes between now and January to give him the opportunity to do that? And when I say giving him minutes, I'm talking maybe, after these tough Champions League games, if I know we've got Bournemouth away, so I would probably say that's not an option. Bradford in the cup, exactly. Or say after this tough Champions League game, let's say for argument's sake, we had like a Leeds at home, or we had a Burnley away, or something like that. Are you giving Will Asula minutes to almost not prove his worth, but to put himself in the shop window a little bit, to kind of say to other clubs, he's got something about him. We know Villa were interested in him as well. Apparently Villa made an inquiry, and then that weird rule meant that he couldn't join Aston Villa. But we know that there's interest there. Because for me, I just hope that we just don't see Will. I hope that we don't end up not seeing Will Asula from now till January, because I think if that happens in January, I think clubs will approach, but they'll go, hang on, you've not played them at all. Even though you've had Johan Visser out, even though Nick Voltemade hasn't been fit since he first joined, you can't fancy him that much. How's 18 million pounds or something like that? For me, I think it's about putting him in that shop window and giving him the opportunity, and more importantly, resting some players for maybe tougher games, should we say? Is that? Do you think that's fair? Is that what you'd expect to see as well?
I expect him to play against Bradford, and then if we get through the round of Bradford and whoever we get in the next round, I expect him to play there. But If am I expecting him to play Premier League games or Champions League games? Nah, not a chance. He's not starting Premier League games for me. Certainly not for me anyway. He may well come off the bench.
Come off the bench,
Absolutely. He might get some minutes here and there to prove himself. He might be thrown on as a last resort in certain games to try and turn the game round. But the only games he's starting for me is the Carabao Cup, and that might be dependent on who we play. So obviously we've got to get through Bradford first. He might well start next Wednesday. If we get through that and we get a decent draw, a winnable draw, he might well play again. I don't see him playing a lot of football unless he makes a difference off the bench. But I do think his exploits in the under-21 Euros maybe will hold his price until January. I don't think it holds its price next summer, 2026. So this is why I'm adamant that we have to sell him now. If we want to get that sort of fee in the bank, it just doesn't make sense why we kept hold of him. People might say, oh, yeah, but Wisa got injured, so, this is why we wanted to keep hold of him. He ain't playing anyway. He's not going to then all of a sudden be a starter because Wisa's not there. Like, Eddie Howe does not fancy him. You don't rate him. You don't rate him as a player. If we rated him as a player, he'd be right up there in the mix. Start him tonight, Gordon on the left, Elanga on the right, and you play him in as a striker because Eddie Howe's got the trust in him. Eddie Howe doesn't have trust in Will Asula. Doesn't rate him as a player. And therefore, this is why he's nowhere near playing regular football for Newcastle United. Move him on. Get profit. Get that money in the bank. This is what Newcastle need to start doing well. Selling players when they're at their pomp. Chelsea do this all the time. Man City do this all the time. When they see a player and they go, decent, not quite making it, they make money on him. Look what Man City did with James McAtee. Everyone's talking about, he should be breaking into the first team, this, that, and the other. They go, not quite fancying it. Yeah, ship him off to Forest. Nice little buyback clause. What, they get 25, 30 million for him, something like that? Happy days. Everyone's happy. Nice little 25, 30 million on the PSR. He gets his move elsewhere. There's a buyback if we want it. Happy days. Everybody's happy. That's the kind of thing Newcastle United need to be doing more of. Looking at a player and making a judgment. Is he going to make it? Nah. Let's make as much money as we can on him. Get him gone. Buyback clause if necessary. And we move on with things. We have to be smarter. And this is part of my mindset on Harvey Barnes. If Harvey Barnes isn't fitting the system, move him on. Simple as that. Get him gone. Get him sold in January or the summer. Let's get as close to 30 million as we possibly can for him and get a player in that can play the system. We have to be smarter with our players. Third one, Joe Willock. Move him on. I can't remember whether it was you, Chris, or Dad said he played all right. I didn't think he played well. I just think he just doesn't really offer much. He's a runner, and that's all. He doesn't offer anything on the board. Doesn't create. He just kind of runs around. He's a little bit like Miggy, a little bit of a headless chicken right now, which is a shame because he did offer something a few years ago. He just doesn't now. Move him on. Let's get him, extract as much money from him and move these players on and get players in that can actually offer something on the pitch. We need to be ruthless. We need to start making big decisions on some of these players and not holding out, because the longer we hold out, the value just drops and we get pittance for them in the end. Let's sell them while we can.
Yeah. No, to be fair, it was me that said Willock impressed me, and to be fair, the bar's quite low based on previous performances from Joe Willock. But no, Pete, I completely agree. And Daz, just before, well, that was the last question, but just before we wrap up, I just want to ask you: do you think? And it's just a question that's popped into my head. Do you think that selling Alexander Isak, who you could argue, I say you could argue, I think it's a fact, he was our most prized asset. Do you think that will help us going forward? As a team maturing, as a team developing, in the sense that we've lost our number one striker, we've lost our most prized asset. Do you think that will make things easier going forward in terms of letting players go? Rather than being nostalgic and keeping players and going, just keep them just in case. And this is why I was so frustrated over Will Asula, because there was an opportunity for us to strike and bring in good money. But do you think in January and the summer, the players Pete's mentioned, or players like that Pete's mentioned, the likes of Willock, the likes of Barnes, the likes of Asula, do you think Newcastle will start trading more? Because we know we've got that safety net now because for PSR, because of Alexander Isak. But really, we should be trying to build on that safety net so that it increases year by year, and that we can go and splurge and not worry about being in their PSR limits. Do you think is that kind of how you're feeling about it all as well?
I'm smiling, Chris, because the big long question I'm going to say, who? Never heard of that guy. Look, forget about him. He went on strike, then he came on and didn't have a great. Of course, he needs match time too, so I'm sure he'll come back and all firing at some stage. But forget about him. It's all about the big Nick energy now going forward. But yeah, look, to answer your question, yeah, we should have some cash there to splash either in January, or in the summer, and add to it by sales as well, like the Barnes, like the Willock, like the Asula, maybe a few more as well, trade up. And I think in time, like what Pete was saying, in time we will get to do the things that Chelsea, and maybe not what Chelsea do, or maybe what Man City do, but in the trading players, and that's why we're bringing in guys that are young guys as well to try and make it, or to be in striking distance of the first team, and then maybe sell them on as a profit as well. It's all kind of part of the model we'll go into. I would also love us to see us to have a feeder club and be able to loan out players to either, and then they make it and they come back with us, or else like Cuba Minter, their value increases and we sell them, as well. So we're going to have that go forward, and apparently it's something for the future.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think it's important to mention as well, Liverpool spent a hell of a lot of money, as we know, this summer. But when you look at the sales that they brought in, it's good business. It's good business. They've sold a lot of fringe players and they brought in a hell of a lot of money. And that's what I'm hoping Newcastle United will do as well. Sell players who are on the fringe, or players who aren't quite fitting the system, or players that we think we can improve on, bring that money in, and then that will allow us to spend even more. And I think as a model, certainly in this PSR world that we are in, it's certainly something we need to consider. Sorry, boys, just before we wrap, one more question, a super chat again from Ken Bell. Thank you very much, Ken. Very, very quick one before we wrap up. And I think it's a really interesting question, actually. Ken asks, I'm going to go to Pete first, given the comments that Pete made earlier. Ken Bell says, Pete, can we ask Vissa not to go away for international? Big season for us and Congo. Big season for us, Congo not so much. 55 million was a lot of money. So yeah, 55 million, a hell of a lot of money that we forked out for. Maybe Ken is referring to the AFCON, which we know will be coming up in the winter. Do you think that's a possibility, Pete, that we ask him not to go on international? I think we briefly discussed this before and said that it's probably highly unlikely that Johan Vissa would refuse to go. But do you think that is something that behind the scenes may happen?
No, unfortunately, I don't think that'll be possible. I think there's something in place where you can't, as a club, refuse to allow a player to go on international. So I don't think it would happen. If it was up to me, I absolutely would. But look, players love playing for their international club, like international country, as well as their club. And it's one of those things that it is a difficult situation. But we are in a position where we can still manage that situation. We can still manage it. Okay. Like Terrace's put in a comment earlier, and he put the point is we don't have control over how Congo's manager chooses to play Lisa. Well, we should, because Liverpool did with a certain number 14 that used to play for us and said use him sparingly. We've looked at plenty of players looking at England and other countries years gone by that have managed their players that have said, play them for 60, 70 minutes, rest them and do the same again, or only play them for one match, rest them for the next. Clubs can have that influence. We should have had that influence for a player that had barely kicked a ball all summer, and we didn't. That's where we need to be better. We are too nice. We let international teams get away with it. Bruno Guimaraes was the only Brazilian player that played literally every minute of his international fixtures, those 2 international fixtures. There was no need for him to play that when every other player got rested at some point. Sandro Tonali literally plays every minute for Italy. We need to be managing that situation. They can't be playing all of the minutes God send and then playing every minute that God sends for Newcastle United, because he's going to end up getting injured. We can't afford for a Bruno or a Tonali or a Wisa picking up injuries because they're being constantly thrown out there to play all the time. There is an easy way to communicate with their international team and say, right, if you're going to play him for a full match, play him in the first one and then play him for 50, 60 minutes and bring him off for the second. Or if you don't need to, it's a friendly, for example, one of the games, in one of the friendlies, rest him. Then playing for the international, where it's a World Cup qualifier or whether it's an AFCON qualifier or whatever it is. And this is not just Wisa, this is any player. This is Tonali, this is Bruno, this is every other player. Of course, players are going to want to represent their country, but we can manage how many minutes they play. We can do that. And for some reason, the club is choosing not to, or we're not being stern enough in that situation. We have to make sure we're looking after our players for the benefit of Newcastle United, because there is a situation here. There is a scenario where Johan Wisa recovers before the international break and maybe is involved before the international break and then gets called up and then is gone for 2 weeks and then could potentially get injured again. There is a scenario where that can happen.
Yeah.
And this doesn't surprise me why Eddie Howe is saying after the international break, because I think he's preempting for Congo to go, get fucked. You ain't fucking calling him up for internationals because we need him. Because I tell you what, after the October internationals, he's got 4 weeks of playing? And even then, it's not 4 weeks because there's another international in November. So he has, 3 or 4 weeks max of playing for Newcastle United before then AFCON starts. So actually, the period of time when he comes back from injury that he actually plays for Newcastle United is very short before he's then gone for a month. And that's not ideal either. So we need to protect our players. And there's nothing wrong with being able to protect our players. This is no disrespect to Congo or any internationals, although I'm being disrespectful to Congo because I think they're a bunch of amateurs. They're not managing it. But
Congo Mags are in the chat.
I'm saying it to Bruno. But I'm also calling out Italy and Brazil as well, because they haven't managed our players either. They haven't managed Tonali. They haven't managed Bruno. Haven't looked after our boys either. Why is it that Barcelona's teams and Liverpool's teams and all these teams get to manage their players and look after their players? Our number 14 previously was playing every single minute for Sweden, whether he was half fit or not. But all of a sudden, he goes to that team on Merseyside, and all of a sudden, his minutes are getting managed. Something don't seem right there. Why are we not able to do the same with our players? We're in the Champions League. We're fighting for the top 5. We're at the top end of English football. We should be able to have an influence on our players going international football, and that's my issue. Okay. And
is this where the lack of sporting director and CEO comes in, Pete? Because I'm assuming they would have those discussions.
No, this is the manager. This is medical staff. This is other people. It's not just sporting director or CEO. To be fair, CEO wouldn't manage that situation. Maybe a sporting director would.
Maybe sporting director. Yeah.
Maybe, but certainly medical staff. Medical staff should be on the blower to the international, saying, "Look, this is how much he's played, or this is how little he's played. This is what we need to be doing to manage him." We need to be having a conversation with the player saying, "Look, I know you love your country and we don't want you to not represent your country, but we also need you to come back fit and firing for Newcastle United." Because Johan Wies's missed out on playing in a massive game against Barcelona. Hopefully now that's a wake-up call for him to go, maybe I need to manage my international football because I want to be playing in these big games that I moved to Newcastle United for in the first place. That's what, if I'm Johan Wiese, that's in my mind right now. Yes, of course, I love my country. I want to play for my country. But at the same time, I want to be playing in the biggest and best games for Newcastle United because I'm now at the biggest club I've ever been at in my career. I want to make the most of it. That, I hope now, is his mindset. And that's why I'm saying it. But yeah, to finish, Congo are a bunch of amateurs. Absolute joke of an international team, right? I don't know who's
Where you
paying
going on holiday, Pete?
I don't know who's paying their medical stuff, but it's an absolute joke. It's a joke.
Oh God.
And I won't be going on holiday. I won't be going.
I'm not going to Congo.
Get 2 holidays with a special offer to Congo.
You can imagine them turning up at the airport. It's an absolute joke.
Right. On we said, look at okay, no one knew who was going to get injured in the international league, but this is why I kind of couldn't get too excited about when we signed. We definitely needed a striker on that last day. We know other options, but I think this could be. You know how it was always said, we can't make a mistake in the transfer window. This one could be a mistake. We paid too much, blah blah blah. We were held to kind of ransom and stuff like that. I hope he does come back. I hope he scores loads of goals. I hope he proves me wrong. No matter if he comes back and goes again on international and goes off the AFCON, blah blah blah. He's still getting it from me if he doesn't score 15 goals a season. It's up to him how many games he's going to play for us. He's in control of that to some degree, but he needs to score 15 goals, or I'm going to come on that for him at the end of the season. Still,
boys, we have one more question, and it comes from Ken Bell. Another super chat from Ken. Thank you so much, Ken. Ken says, "How many games do we have him?" He's still on Visa. This 55 million spent on a striker he's not playing. Simple. Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads into what we've just been talking about, Ken, doesn't it? It's frustrating because I don't know the maths off the top of my head, but he's meant to be back after the international break, and the next international break is the middle of October, is it? Maybe, I think it's the middle of October. And then when does the African Nations start? Is it December?
Middle of December.
Yeah. So it's probably not that many games.
This year it's different because normally it would start at the beginning of January and it would go through to the beginning of Feb. But now they've done it differently. So it starts mid-December and it finishes mid-January. So it's kind of like he'll miss almost that big clutch of fixtures in between, although there's not really a Boxing Day fixture, although there's one the day after or the day after that.
Yeah, it's weird.
He'll still miss a clutch of fixtures, including Champions League games in between that. FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League games, he'll miss in that clutch of fixtures that he'll be gone. Hopefully they get knocked out at the earliest opportunity. I want them losing 3-0 on multiple games. I need him gone. I'm sorry. Like,
can we do some live watch-alongs for Congo now? We can maybe do that during the international break.
I'm not gonna lie. If we do that, it ain't a watch-along. It's a hate-along. I want him gone. I want him gone from Congo. I want him back in Newcastle. I do not want him playing or representing that club for any longer than he needs to. I need him back at Newcastle, right? My priority is, and you know what? It'd be the same with Anthony Gordon. It'd be the same for Dan Burn. I'm going on about.
I know where you go.
I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed he's missing. But if it was Dan Burn and it was Anthony Gordon, it was England, I'd be absolutely exactly the same. And I'm an England fan. I'm an England boy. I support my country. I want them to win, but at the same time, I'm a Newcastle United fan, and my priority, as much as people might not like it, is Newcastle United, is my club football.
Same.
I want my boys fit and ready to play for Newcastle United. It's such a crucial season for Newcastle. I need our players back and fit. So for me, it'll be hate-alongs all the way in AFCON. I want them losing 3-0. I want them losing 3-0. I need him back at Newcastle ASAP. I need him back at Newcastle ASAP. That's my mentality. People won't like it, but I don't care.
We've just had make a note of this time, Daz, because that is the perfect short.
Yes, we've just had a message from the ruler of the president of Congo, and he's welcoming you, Pete. His name is Felix. He's welcoming you to Congo and to prove you wrong. He said he's going to welcome you to Congo, and with open arms, all will be forgiven.
Prove me wrong. Don't call him up for the AFCON. Then I'll quite happily come and shake your hand. Don't call him up for AFCON, and we're good. That's the only way I'm agreeing to do that. So that's my message back to him in reply.
On that note, I think we're bringing the show to a conclusion.
Yeah, we are,
boys. Because but before we
just before we do, more. Ken Bell, it's a swan song. Thank you, Ken. Ken to apply with the super chat. Yes, Big Pete. Costing me a fortune. Ken, mate, absolutely brilliant.
It's pissed me off tonight. It really has. It's pissed me off. Sorry.
Big Felix has said he's going to reimburse you, Ken, for all the tragedy.
Get that amateur off my screen now. Get him off.
He can play up front. He can play up front.
He's an amateur. He's an amateur, like his medical staff of his international country. Get him gone, man. Get him gone.
He's not a left winger. He's a striker, so we can play him up front. Free transfer, right, boys. On that note, let's bring it to a conclusion. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. We will be back for at least the reaction show to Bournemouth at the weekend. But enjoy your weekend as it draws closer, nearer. And until then, see you on the next one. Have a good one.